day in 2010, I took a trip far from home to find inspiration for my work. It was my first time traveling like that, so there were many things I didn't know yet. Everything in this new country was unfamiliar to me. Everything felt strange and new. I was even too hesitant to go too far from the room I had rented. Still, the things I experienced there turned out to be some of the most special moments of my life. At first, I rented a small room in a village near a small town. Since being alone got boring, I invited a group of friends to stay with me. After some time and consideration, I decided to move to a larger place. The new house was about 5 km away, but it felt like a completely different world, quiet and isolated from everything else. It was a 2-story house. A family lived on the ground floor, and our room was on the 2nd floor. Our room had a balcony that overlooked a forest, and it wasn't until we moved in that I noticed. Across the forest, visible from the balcony, was a tomb. It looked eerie, but since there were 4 of us guys, we felt brave enough to stay. At first, everything was normal. Over time, we became friendly with the family downstairs. One day, the older sister from that family brought her baby upstairs to my room. I was the only one there at the time. She sat on the balcony with the baby and told me that the night before, when she went to use the bathroom, she saw a figure, someone wearing very strange clothes, likely a small woman, pale-skinned, walking around the courtyard. The figure circled the yard for a bit, then walked straight to the gate and faded away, disappeared. The sister was so scared she ran back into the room and woke her husband. Her husband, as it turns out, is even more terrified of ghosts than she is. When he was a kid, he had a scary encounter with a ghost and has been traumatized ever since. Hearing the story, I wasn't sure what to believe. I just listened. I didn't want to ask the landlord about it either. Who knows how they'd react? A couple of days passed. One evening, the sister's cousin came to visit. After dinner, she stayed over and slept there. That night, the sister, her cousin, and the baby all slept on the bed, while the husband laid out a mat on the floor to sleep. Around midnight, the 4 of us were still upstairs hanging out when suddenly, we heard a scream from downstairs. The sister and her husband were yelling in terror. We rushed down to see what had happened. The lights were on, the husband was pale as a sheet, sitting on the floor holding a large meat cleaver, and the sister was crying uncontrollably, too shaken to speak. When things calmed down a bit, I asked the cousin what had happened. She was still stunned, sitting on the bed holding the baby, clearly confused. The sister, through tears, finally managed to explain. He got possessed. My husband got possessed. I tried to calm her down and asked what had happened exactly. She said, "In the middle of the night, I woke up to make milk for the baby. Suddenly, my husband opened his eyes, grabbed the big knife he kept under his pillow, and started slashing wildly at the air while screaming. I was so scared I screamed too, and we both started yelling." The husband, now calmer, explained his side. "I was sleeping, then suddenly woke up and saw a girl with long hair and strange clothes peeking into the room saying, 'Sister, sister.' I panicked and grabbed the knife to scare the ghost away. I wasn't possessed. I was trying to protect everyone." He said that ever since his wife saw the ghost in the courtyard, he hadn't been sleeping well. And that night, since there were 3 women and a baby on the bed, he decided to sleep on the floor. Then it happened. He couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman, but it had long hair covering its face and was slowly sticking its head into the room. I told them, "Good thing you didn't hit anyone with that knife. You scared us all with your screams." Once things settled down, we said goodnight and went back to our room, but none of the 4 of us dared to sleep. We stayed up all night talking because we were all too scared. One of my friends said he had a feeling someone had died in that house before. The next morning, we saw the couple setting up a small ceremony in the yard with offerings and incense. We came down to watch, and afterward, the husband invited us to stay for lunch. After some time had passed, the holidays came, and I went home for about a month. When I returned, the family downstairs had already moved out for some reason. The day I came back from the break, I went to the room to do a bit of cleaning. I remembered hearing about a tradition in some places. If you've been away for a long time, you should knock before re-entering your room. I only remembered this later, in hindsight. I was the first one to return. The others hadn't arrived yet, except for one friend who came the same day, but a few hours after me. After tidying up the room, I dozed off. Strangely, in a half-asleep state, I saw a girl around my age cooking something in the kitchen. Then, I was jolted awake by a loud voice calling me, along with the sound of my 7 p.m. alarm. Time to cook dinner. I walked to the bathroom and heard the sound of running water. I figured my friend had already arrived and was in there, so I knocked on the door and said, "Hey, have you eaten yet? I'll cook something. There's a lot of good stuff today." There was no reply. I said it a few more times, but still nothing. I thought maybe he was listening to loud music. Our bathroom is pretty fancy and soundproof from the inside, so you can't hear much unless you speak right near the door. So I gave up and went down to the kitchen, intending to help the girl I had seen in my half-dream, but she was nowhere to be found. She just wasn't there. Then I heard a voice from the bathroom, muffled and hard to tell whether it was male or female due to the interference. "Turn off the water heater for me. You'll get electrocuted one day if you keep showering with the heater on. Don't be reckless." Still no response. I quickly ran out to flip the breaker and went back to cooking. Suddenly, I noticed we were out of some ingredients, so I planned to run out to buy more. When I got down to the first floor, I was shocked to see my friend just arriving at the gate, arms full of groceries. "Come help me carry this stuff, it's a ton." My first thought was, how could he be down here before me? Then, who was in the bathroom upstairs? Maybe someone else had come back without telling us? So I asked him, "Hey, did you go upstairs already? I just got here, how could I have gone up? Why? Something missing from the room?" I said nothing. We went back up together, and the whole time I was thinking, and the more I thought, the more afraid I became. When we got to the room, the door was still locked and the water heater switch had been turned off. We opened the door. No one was inside. My face turned pale. After dinner, I told my friend what had happened. Before he came, I saw someone in the bathroom, but our door had been locked the whole time, so no one could have gotten in. At first, he laughed it off, thinking I was joking. But when he saw my dead serious expression, his face changed. I'm not joking, I saw it. From that night on, the two of us lived in fear. What was even stranger was the water heater. It kept turning off on me while I was showering. It only held about 21 liters, so it wasn't enough for 2 people. The second person always had to wait or just turn the heater on while showering. But for some reason, I always got cut off. It kept happening. We both kind of knew what was going on, though we tried to brush it off like it was nothing. That night I was feverish and had another dream. In the dream, a girl with no makeup but a pretty face came to visit our room. We talked for a while, and she told me she was from a southern region, that she used to live in this room and had come back to collect something. We'd lived here a long time and never saw any strange belongings, but she insisted something was hers. I told her I'd help her look. Then she kept saying over and over not to turn the water heater on while showering. I didn't think much of it at first, but she repeated it every few sentences until it stuck in my head. When I finally woke up, the fever had gone down a bit, probably from showering late at night with the heater on. In my haze, I asked my friend, "Did that girl come to talk to you too?" He looked at me with concern. Maybe he noticed something strange in me. He insisted we go speak to the landlord that day. When we asked, the landlord hesitated, then finally told us the truth. That room had once been rented to 2 girls. One night, one of them turned on the water heater during a shower and died due to an electrical short. The other girl disappeared after that, never seen again. Hearing that, we both turned white. Then the landlord added, "She became a ghost, but a kind one. I've never heard of her harming anyone. She only helps." My friend lost it. "You told us there were no ghosts here. And what about the family downstairs being haunted? That's it, we're done, we're moving out." We didn't let him say anything else. We rushed back, called the other 2 guys, and packed up to leave immediately. That night I had a fever again, partly from tossing and turning, worrying about where to move next, and partly because I couldn't stop thinking about the spirit in that room. Eventually I fell asleep, and I saw her again, but this time my fear overwhelmed everything. I just sat silently, staring. She understood, and only gently asked, "Are you leaving? Is your fever really bad? Please don't use the water heater when you shower, okay?" She had never harmed us, never haunted us, we were just scared. I remembered what the spiritual teachers say, never respond when a ghost calls your name. Through my fevered dreams and strange happenings, I saw her 6 times, both in real life and in dreams. Just recently, I moved out to a new place. As I packed the last of my things, standing at the doorway, I took a deep breath and looked around one final time. And I felt perhaps she was standing somewhere nearby, watching. After everything that happened, the 4 of us went our separate ways. I moved to a small town and started living alone. What was strange was that the new house I moved into was right next to an abandoned church. Maybe, after what happened before, I had become more alert. But after more than 2 months of living there, nothing happened. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. Maybe she was still watching over me.